Welcome, everyone. So TIES, as the chief architect and convener of the STEM learning ecosystems, takes its role very, very seriously. For the last several months, we've been hearing from hundreds of you about what you need and what you want to better serve your communities. And we've been responding with our series of tools, resources, and webinars offered under the STEM at Home initiative. In keeping with that desire to best support you and meeting the needs you've raised, and while staying loyal to only offering you products and services that have been sanctioned by some of our ecosystem leaders, we're pleased to bring you for your consideration what we think could be a meaningful opportunity for some students in your ecosystems. Guided by what many of you have told us you want and need, TIES has been exploring opportunities with some of its regular partners and sponsors and saw an opportunity to collaborate with UBTECH for virtual but experiential summer learning camps for students. We wanted to be able to offer you a program where students would get something far more than just time in front of a computer monitor. We wanted them to have something to work with, something they could touch, something that would challenge and engage them and keep them experimenting and iterating and building even beyond the camp. We wanted a robot to be given to every child. We knew this was going to be a really tall order, though. Meaningful robotics kits are expensive and retail for more than $400. At the same time, we asked UBTECH to remember that we serve many students who live in poverty and homes with very little financial means, now more than ever. UBTECH responded with Camp Aspire, a virtual robotics camp that you'll learn more about shortly. Before today's webinar started, we sent each of you pages that outline the project and walk through the various models, so I hope you have those with us. We'll be explaining all of this over the next 50 minutes or so, and we'll be taking questions. So please share your thoughts today. You've got a little chat box. There's a button. If it's not already popped up, you can hit the chat button and you can chat there. Alyssa and Veronica, Jason and Jamie from UBTECH will be there chatting with you. You should also see a Q&A button down at the bottom. If you have questions that might make sense for us to answer live at the end, please place those there. Regardless of whether or not you add a question, we do ask that you periodically look through the questions that others have asked and click the little thumbs up button for questions that you're also interested in. This way we can see which questions are being asked by lots of you, and we'll be asking some of you to ask your questions live. In just a little while, we're going to hear from Jamie Sachs from the UBTECH education team with some detail of the camps, from Warren Wise about some suggestions for finding funding and the importance of robotics and all those things. And at the end of the hour, we're going to hear from Alyssa Briggs and Veronica Gonzalez about next steps and some exciting scholarship opportunities. But first, please welcome the founder and GM of UBTECH North America, John Rhee. John has a track record of establishing highly successful strategic partnerships. He has a specific passion and commitment for growing equity in education and preparing children today for tomorrow's careers. We're really excited to hear about why UBTECH created this program and learn a little more about why UBTECH is partnering with the STEM learning ecosystems. John?
Thank you for the intro, Jeremy. I hope everyone is safe and well. We may have met in the last two convenings in San Antonio as well as Cleveland. If you don't remember, you might remember me as a person who played the video describing what we call the fourth industrial revolution and how robotics and automation was going to play a much larger role in our lives and how it was transforming the landscape of how we work as well. It's no surprise that a robotics company is very passionate about robotics and thinks that within the broad area of STEM, that we think robotics really needs to be taught in a more substantial way. It's also no surprise that a robotics company thinks that it should be taught as often as possible and also during the summer. Why is it more important now than ever before in the past? I think we are all aligned in that STEM is important. And I think a lot of us do think that the landscape of how we work will change dramatically and probably to the deficit of Americans. I would say this pandemic has raised many issues, and as a byproduct, and a very unfortunate byproduct, we ourselves in the more advanced robotics space, we ourselves are talking to many companies on how we can help them with addressing pain points in their current operations, and those pain points largely being dependencies on people working in those jobs. And so again, as an unfortunate byproduct, I think we're going to see a large shift after things settle a little bit to automation and AI and corporations looking at how they can optimize. So it's more important now than ever that our students learn get their hands on as many STEM products and learning as possible. And given that this pandemic also has created a gap in learning for many students across the country, we do think that we should do whatever we can to help fill in that gap. There are some bright spots, however, with these shifts towards automation and robotics. Robotics can do a lot of good things. We ourselves started working on a portfolio of products to help out with things like thermal detection, reducing transmission, and at a later date we can share some of the cool things we've been working on. And I point that out so that we all know that what is taught in school now creates people like those that work at UBTECH. And if you're in a position where your experience in STEM allows you to create and find solutions to real everyday problems, and for us, this everyday problem is the largest, perhaps, event that we've had in the last 100 years. And empowering and training the creators of tomorrow allows for us to have people that are able to react and create, and again, find solutions for large problems. We're partnering with Thai STEM learning ecosystems for a very specific reason. We wanted to offer something robust and strong, and we wanted to figure out how to do it in the right way. And so given our relationship with the amazing team at STEM Learning, we thought they would be the right partner for us to come up with this project together, to really stress test it and find out and make sure that what we do offer to students really does put the student first. That said, I'm gonna give it back to you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Sean. One of the things that I think is kind of cool about UBTECH and as we're talking about sort of preparing kids, and I hope I don't mess this up because I did not check with you on this first, but I think that when I was watching some story, one of the thousands of stories about the pandemic, that I saw a UBTECH robot in a hospital kind of driving around checking on patients to keep doctors out of the room. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, in January, we were asked by a lot of our partners globally, and the question was, we do think that robotics can help out here. What can be done? Is there anything that UBTECH can do? We have about 2,000 people worldwide, and about 1,000 of them are engineers, and we committed about 800 of them on helping figure out what can be done in robotics, given the pandemic was unfortunately, ravaging parts of the country. So for the last 3 months, we've been working on robots, and one of the cool robots that we've been able to put out there into the field has been a robot that does distant thermal detection, or scanning about 200 people per minute, trying to detect elevated skin temperatures, as well as using computer vision for things like, is somebody wearing a mask or not? And if somebody is not wearing a mask, informing the people of that, as well as that robot having a strong telepresence or telemedicine functionality. And so we've been able to kind of separate people who have come into environments, whether that is a hospital or school, and if somebody's running an elevated temperature, keeping that person at a safe distance from somebody who is screening them medically. So
it's very cool, and it's also lends kind of credence as we talk to kids about these robots to the ways that this thing that you might consider a toy actually starts vertically articulating into career paths and deeper thinking about the role of robotics in our culture. It's very cool. It's very exciting. We've seen some questions start to come in. Make sure you're continuing to put those questions in. We were going to want to get to as many as possible. And the earlier you get those questions in and get those voted up, the more likely it is that we'll be able to get to your question live today. Next up, I'd like to hear a little bit from Jamie. Jamie Sachs, many of you have met at Ecosystem Convenings. Jamie's a seasoned educational leader and former nonprofit director with a wealth of experience leading successful teams. As senior director, Jamie oversees development and implementation of UBTECH's educational programs, curricula, and professional development. Jamie?
Thanks, Jeremy. Well, we are really excited today to sort of lay out what Camp Aspire is going to be able to provide for hopefully a lot of students in your ecosystems. that will help them learn more about robotics, engineering, coding, artificial intelligence, all of those topics. They're sort of at the tech forefront right now. And Veronica, you can go ahead and switch it to the next slide. This is just a little bit about what you're going to see when you come to our website to check out some information about the camp. We will have a full registration system up and running in the next few weeks. Registration will open on the 18th. But these are just some of the images that you will see when you start looking for us on your social media. We hope you will follow us on social media or come to our website and sign up for our mailing list, where you can get more information on this. So let's talk about what Camp Aspire is. So what we're going to be offering are 4 different class options. 2 will align with our beginner kit, and 2 will align with our intermediate kit. For the beginner kit, the 2 classes will be an introduction to coding and engineering. So this one is intended more for students starting right at the beginning with little or no experience. There will be some design challenges, some coding challenges, and then we also are offering another option for the beginner kit, which is called Animal Robotics. This one will focus on biomimicry and really how can we design robots to solve problems in a way where they mimic animal or human movements, and how can those be used effectively to solve real world problems. For the intermediate kit, we are also have 2 offerings. One is building robots to interact with the world, where we'll be focusing a lot on sensors with the robots. How do sensors interact with the world? What kinds of information can they gather? How does this inform the robot brain to make decisions? How do sensors interact with the implementation of artificial intelligence? And really, how do sensors act like human senses, and really getting kids to think about that. The other option with the intermediate kit is called a helping hand. This one will be a series of challenges where students will learn some coding, some robotics building, engineering, and then they will be asked to identify a problem that they think a robot could assist with. And that's anything that they are interested in. It could be something having to do with the current situation we're in now, or not at all, or something that's very localized to their community. And they will be asked to design a solution to help with that problem that they've identified. So those are our 4 offerings. So next slide, Veronica. So let's talk about what that means. In the beginner offerings, the students will get one of our UKit beginners with all of the pieces, motors, robot brain that you see here. And we've also included, oh, and Jeremy has one there for show and tell. We've also included a couple of pictures of some of the builds that go along with this kit, and I specifically included the ones that are animals. Since we will be doing a camp based on animals, we have a snake at the top, the dinosaur, and the scorpion, but the kids are also welcome to create their own builds based on any animal they would like. Both of our kits come with an app that you can download on the App Store or Google Play that allows them to go step by step and build 13 for our beginner kit, 13 prescribed builds, or create their own customized design. Veronica, you can go to the next slide. And then this is a picture of our intermediate kit, which again comes with all the pieces you see here: sensors, motors, building pieces, robot brain, all the connecting wires. And then here's a couple of builds that I thought were applicable to our helping hand camp. The grabber, the car, or the street sweeper. You know, they could build these and modify them to address whatever problem they identify, or they could create their own custom build. For this kit in the app, there are 15 already designed builds that the students can use for a new unique application, or again, they can come up with their own. And then this is our camp schedule. We are launching camps on June 15th, and they will continue all through the summer until August 24th. Right now, we are looking at offering one of each camp for every camp session. So the robotics coding and engineering camp with the beginner kit and the robotics and sensors camp with the intermediate kit would be offered 1 week, and then the opposite camps would be offered the next week, and that would rotate all through the summer. So if there are kids who want to take both, they can take one right after the other. These camps don't have to be taken in any order. You don't have to take the first one in order to take the second one. There will be enough intro instruction in both of them to get kids up and running. And then we need teachers. We are currently recruiting teachers to teach these camps. We do want to have teachers who are certified in any state, or in the case of some private school teachers, at least 3 years of teaching experience in a STEM subject. To be a teacher for this camp, you are required to have your own laptop, desktop, internet connection, all the things you think you would need to join a video conference. It would be great if you have some coding experience, but it's not required. We will supply training, and all of the coding for these camps is going to be primarily block coding, unless we have an advanced student that wants to go in text-based coding, and then we would try to accommodate that. But for the most part, this is going to be block coding, so we will train you on that. You can teach as little as 2 weeks or as many as 10 weeks, all the way from June through August. You can also teach more than one camp per week if you would like. The compensation you can see up on the screen, and then you will also get to keep the UKITs that we provide you to be able to teach the camps. We do have an application form on our website, ubtecheducation.com. You can find it there under careers, or if you have questions, you can email us at education@ubtrobot.com, and we will happy to answer any questions that you have. But apply, apply, apply. We are looking for lots of teachers. We want to make sure that we have the best teachers teaching these kids, and we want to try to match up the teachers with kids in your communities. So, I mean, we would very much like to have teachers from each of your local communities working with kids in that community, and maybe one day when we all get out of our houses, they can actually meet each other, or maybe they know them from their school. That would be great. And next, Veronica. Thank you. In terms of pricing, we do have special pricing for students or schools or organizations that sign up through this special ecosystems offer. If these camps are purchased on our website, the beginner camp to enroll one student would be $400. The student does get to keep the kit. And then, but for ecosystems, that price is going to be $350. For the intermediate camps, if you sign up on our website, that would be $500. But for ecosystems, that's going to be $425. And again, the students keep the kits. And then some of the great benefits for you guys as ecosystems, UBTECH is offering a guaranteed $100,000 in scholarships for students to be enrolled in these camps at no cost. And then also the ecosystems have the ability to increase that number of scholarships. After the $100,000, for every 10 students enrolled by a particular ecosystem, will earn one more scholarship. And our goal is that we would like to get that all the way up to $1 million in scholarships for the summer. So that's a lot of kids that might not otherwise have the chance to do something like this, that will get to enroll in this and interact with some really great teachers from your communities, and will also get to keep this kit in their home. And one of the things we're looking at is, if they do keep this kit, is we're looking at providing extended activities for them to do throughout the rest of the summer, or ongoing, that they can do with their kits on their own, because these kits are very versatile and they have so many applications and design opportunities. We don't want the kids to kind of put them in their closet and forget about them. We'd like to keep them interacting with them. Or if a community organization chooses to sign up kids for the camp, then the asset would remain with that organization. So let's say, you know, the YMCA wants to sign up, 50 kids for this camp, then the camps could come back to the YMCA. And, oh, I got messed up on my slides there a little bit. So whichever way you decide to sign kids up, the student could keep the camp, or the community-based organization could keep the camp. One other option that we are offering that's a little bit different, the one I was talking about before, was single enrollments in our camp that is facilitated by us. The second option would be where an organization actually buys our virtual robotics toolkits. That comes with 2 weeks of curriculum that we just described and professional development to train your facilitators to deliver this camp. The cost for that model is going to be $299 per student enrolled or $399 per student enrolled for the intermediate kit. And again, those assets would stay with you. So again, when we do get out of our houses and kids start coming back to your local organizations, you would have these kits ongoing to offer additional after school opportunities or summer camps in the future. And I think that is it from me.
So Jamie, just a couple quick questions that I have for you. We've got lots of questions pouring in, but a few that have kind of popped up for me. So first of all, with those scholarships, if an ecosystem earns a scholarship through 10 sales, is that scholarship that they just earned for someone within that ecosystem?
Yes, I believe we are going to try to match the earnings with the scholarship. And Alyssa or Veronica, please jump in if I'm saying something incorrect.
That's awesome. And then for the camps themselves, are they totally synchronous, or are there asynchronous components that kids are supposed to do when they're not live? How does that work?
So the way we've designed it is to have 2 hours synchronous live on Zoom or some other video conferencing tool, every day at a specified time. And we will have varying times throughout the day. So it's not, if a student has a conflict, they should be able to find a time that works for them or a teacher. So there will be 2 hours of synchronous live instruction every day. And then there will be activities that we will provide the student to do on their own in between the live instruction. However, if the student is not able to complete those activities on their own, they won't be behind the next day. Those are going to be more like extension activities or go a little deeper activities, enrichment. No student will feel behind if they aren't able to do them and they come back the next day.
That makes sense. And then my last question, so I'm just thinking about myself. I have 2 girls around the same age. Would I need 2 kits if I want them both to participate? Could they share a kit? How might that work? Or do we even know that yet?
Well, if they sign up individually and enroll in this camp, they will both get a kit. If you wanted them to share a kit, I think that's definitely possible, and they could work together on these different design challenges. We would kind of have to work that out in terms of enrollments, but I think it can be done.
That makes sense. I think it's maybe something to explore. So thank you, Jamie. I know that you'll be kind of around in the chat and maybe answering some of these questions later, but thank you for giving us that overview.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're also lucky to have with us today South Carolina's Teacher of the Year. Some of you heard from him at our last convening in San Antonio. We wanted to ask Warren a few questions about his experience using robotics in the classroom. So Warren Wise, are you there with us?
Yes, Jeremy, I'm right here.
Oh, I didn't see you. You're hiding behind Iron Man, so I didn't see your face. So Warren, why do you use robots in your classroom? I mean, don't we have enough? Don't we have enough stuff to do?
No. I think for teachers, basically we're used to the traditional setting, and I'm technically a middle school science teacher, but I'm also consider myself a STEM teacher, and I won the state award here in South Carolina for using different forms of STEM activities within my curriculum. And with robotics, particularly with UBTECH, we've used that a lot. I wanted every teacher in our school to actually utilize UBTECH or some form of robotics in their curriculum, because I think any teacher, regardless who they are, they're STEM teachers. They're going to use some form of STEM activity or something within their lesson. And I think you can never really have enough. The way the world is going to now.
So what's been the benefit for your kids in particular? I'd love it. I don't know about everyone else listening, but numbers are boring. Can you tell us, a story? Is there a particular student who was really reached through your implementation of robotics, and what did that look like?
Oh man, what I can tell you is I got a few stories to try to narrow a few down. In particularly, we actually use UBTECH robots in a e-cyber mission competition. It's a national STEM competition that's sponsored by the Army Educational Outreach Program. It's by the military. And basically with our 6th graders, and our eighth graders doing the curriculum itself, they use the robotics as far as UBTECH. They made small little trolleys or vehicles to try to go across certain terrain. They were researching how different terrain, how the robots react to different terrain, whether it's some form of soil or grass or rocks or even some form of ice. So you can think how just imagine yourself creating these little things in your classroom, and the students are testing out the angles, they're testing out tire treads, they're testing out speed and velocity, and they're using the robots to actually do this. And it's the same curriculum that we're already doing in our regular classes, except I'm not using a book or some type of drawing. I'm using the robots that was provided for us.
Yeah, and you know, the data's back, right? We know that it's not always possible, but when kids can learn by touching, by building, by creating, those lessons last a whole lot longer. It's not like it is, right? You know, when you think about your middle school experience, you know, for me 30 years ago or whatever it was, the actual content standards that I can repeat to you are the ones where I built, where I created, where I solved a problem, not the ones where I memorized and, you know, sort of took a test. How have you been able to tie robotics to your specific standards?
Oh, awesome question. Basically, what I try to do is look at the standard, you know, what the state wants us to actually go over with our students. And then the UBTECH already has a curriculum that can help you out with that. I just added just a little bit more that similarly, particularly just tunes in to what we're trying to learn in our class, because every teacher, every classroom is going to be different. And so specifically, just talking about that competition, we were talking about different forms of soil. The eighth graders were talking about velocity and speed. And basically what I did was just use the UBTECH robots, and they would actually build it and then program it. And while they're talking about different forms of soil and plants and actually simple machines also, that tied into everything that we're already learning. And these students, that particularly made an impactful moment because they were more engaged. They remembered more. They took a lot of pictures. I wish I took more pictures. I was trying to get them to make sure they get the work done, but they were taking more and more pictures of their work. And then putting that into a competition, some of our students actually made it to the state finals. And it's a national program. And technically, I want to say they're trying to be judged right now for regional finals. We just got to get through this COVID stuff right now.
That's awesome. And thank you, Warren, for joining us again to talk with the ecosystems for a second time in just a few months, both very COVID infused months. But we really appreciate you taking time out of your day. My wife's a teacher. I know that contrary to what a lot of folks believe, the hours that teachers are spending have increased with all of this. So I'm sure you're incredibly busy, and we really appreciate it. In just a few more minutes, we'll be taking questions from all of you. So make sure to keep adding those questions to the Q&A box. And perhaps more importantly, because there's a ton of them in already, make sure you're looking through and voting up the questions that resonate with you so that we can get to as many of those as we can. I don't know about you, but my time as a school district administrator is kind of poking me, and I'm really needing a deeper dive into the cost of this program, scholarship opportunities, sources of funding, and all of that. John, I assume you're sitting in LA. I've just got my Los Angeles coffee mug as I'm sitting in my 45-degree Cleveland spring. But I'm hoping that all the way from wherever you are, you can kind of dig into some of these with us now. John, you are muted. There you go.
Very often these days. Let's talk about how we got here, how we got to this webinar, and how and why UBTECH decided to launch this initiative. I think some of that background is important as we go through more details. As a tech company, we look at problems, or we look at design, and our design thinking process, we first identify problems. And we look at problems, go, is there a problem that exists that we can help solve? And one of the big problems we have is that with shelter-in-place orders around the country, a lot of our students aren't getting the education or the level of education that we all hope they'd receive. So it's definitely not an ideal situation. There was an additional problem of summer camps potentially being disrupted either by the shelter-in-place orders or concerns with the coronavirus and parents not entirely comfortable sending their kids to summer camp. And a larger problem that has been created and exacerbated by the pandemic is that we all know that there are issues with equity in this country. We have tried to address it as much as possible. We do unfortunately think that because of the pandemic, those inequities and those disparities will widen and increase more than before. So given all these problems, is there anything that we can do? So some of the easy things that we can do is how do we adapt our product and make it friendlier to teach at home? So we've been doing that for the last 2 months, sending out materials to our educators, creating content for parents to use at home. We do have retail products that also teach robotics and coding. What can we do both on the retail as well as the education front to facilitate teaching at home? And then we start to look at data more broadly. And we could see that STEM education will likely be affected at a larger scale, given that there will be less tax revenue going into localities and states. ELA, core learning, which is taking a lot of focus of educators, teachers out in this webinar. I'm sure you can imagine that it's difficult to teach robotics and chemistry and things that require hands-on learning virtually. So with all these problems, we decided that we would explore putting together a really robust virtual robotics and coding camp. And then there were problems with that. How do you develop and implement a robust virtual robotics and coding camp, given that robots require kids to really build things, break things apart? That cognitive development that we think is a really important part of the STEM education process. How do we solve that, as well as accomplish some of the social good that we really highly prioritize at our company? So we started to talk to you guys. And in that process, I'm very proud of what we've developed in the last 2 months, essentially. And I'm really proud of what we've developed together in terms of a model of making our program as affordable as possible, with as much giving back built into it. Now, here are some of the challenges with that. Robots are expensive. Shipping robots to students across the country, turns out, is also very expensive. And as a tech company, we are pretty adept at scaling a lot of things in the background, but we are building out a pretty robust platform to facilitate the virtual summer camps. So you had all these cost factors in play. And again, we've been on the calls, multiple times just in the last couple of days, trying to fine tune this model to make sure we offer something that is affordable as possible to members in the ecosystems, as well as build in 2 additional things. One is scholarships. So we approach scholarships where whether we sell 1 camp or enroll 20,000 students in the camp, we are going to give away $100,000 in scholarships no matter what. But here's our goal. We want to give away $1 million worth of scholarships, and I think that's very feasible through the team efforts that we already have in place, as well as the synergies I think to come. The second thing, in terms of giving back, we actually want to give and fund as much as we can back to the communities themselves, the STEM ecosystems, as well as STEM learning, because we do think that funding for the following or the coming years is going to be difficult. So what can we do normally as a company or as corporate giving? We do think corporate giving is going to decrease as a result of the economic consequences of COVID-19. What can we do to change that reality? And so again, we structured this to give back in those 2 primary ways. Scholarships, as well as actual funding back to the STEM ecosystems and the STEM learning ecosystems partnership so that you guys can continue to do what you're doing now. I'm not sure if we have a slide to review pricing. If there is one, it can go up now, and if not, I can rattle off some numbers. Jeremy, are you aware of a slide coming up?
I don't think there is one, but I am not sure. So let's just say them. Oh, what? No, there comes one.
All right.
It's like magic, John.
Got it. Now, here's pricing. Our goal has been to get pricing down as low as possible in order to enroll as many students as possible, because we really, really do think it's needed. So $350 for a week of camp for ecosystems or through the ecosystems, and $425. Let me step you through, our kind of challenges and how we structured it, and why 350 is something that we think is high, right? Let's face it. Part of the issues with equity is that things are expensive, and manufacturing, designing, and building robots are expensive. But for those that have perhaps in the past talked about purchasing our products for their schools, our kit, these are just about the price of the kits themselves, just the hardware itself. So what we did was we wanted to price the price of the camp as closely to the price of the kit itself, and essentially subsidize the following things: the virtual instruction, paying teachers as much as possible if they can become part of the instruction, team with us during the summer, if they are looking for potential additional income. We do think that given the macroeconomics that we're facing now, that can be extremely helpful to those who are interested. Third, scholarships. We built in and subsidized scholarships in this pricing. And fourth, I think substantially, it's important to note that an additional 10% of all top line proceeds, that means every kit that sold $35 goes back to the ecosystems itself. And that's between ecosystems and the STEM learning partnership. So it's a very difficult task, but that is the pricing structure. And that has led us to a ecosystems camp price of $350 for our beginner kit camp and $425 for the intermediate camp.
So John, I'm hoping that maybe we can spend the last 20 minutes or so getting to some of these questions. Would that be all right with you and your team?
Absolutely fine.
All right. Jason,
and also,
Jamie,
Jeremy,
yeah.
Please feel free to ask the questions you want. I'm sure you guys have a lot of things going on in your lives, and don't be shy to ask the hard questions either.
Well, and what I think we're going to do, and I have not cleared this with any of you, so you can all get mad at me, is make a commitment right now that we only have 20 minutes. We're not going to be able to answer every question,
sure,
but that we'll compile those questions, get them to your team, and then we can provide answers back for questions that didn't get asked live. Sarah Rowley, if you're there, I'm going to turn on your microphone here in a second so you can ask your question about developmental levels. While Sarah's getting ready to ask that question, I did see someone else asking. The questions are going so fast, it's hard to keep track. About that pricing, if the participant doesn't even know what an ecosystem is. And what I would suggest in that case is to take a look at STEMecosystem.org. There's a map there. There's 89 ecosystems around the world. There's a very solid chance that you are within the kind of jurisdiction of an ecosystem. And you can reach out to folks on the ecosystem website to help get you in touch with the local ecosystem if you are not already an active member. Sarah, are you there with us? Maybe she's not, and that's okay. So I'm going to just ask the question for her. Sarah's asking, what ages are these camps aimed for? Developmental level, not necessarily skill level. Jason, are you on with us? Can you answer that question?
Hey, Jeremy. Yeah, I did answer this in the chat. Our beginner courses are generally 8 to 10, And our intermediate courses would be sort of the 10 to early teen, 13 sort of range. And I say the word generally because we are planning to have a short screening tool at the front end of registration so that we can get a little bit of background knowledge on where each child is and actually help a family make a informed decision on which course to participate in.
And that would kind of, I assume, be sort of totally up to the discretion of the parents in that case. If I have a brilliant 8-year-old or a 14-year-old that struggles a little bit, I can kind of choose the course that makes the most sense for my student and my family.
That's right.
Thank you. So Jason, and it looks like you answered this one in the chat too, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I think it's a good one. Tom Okaya is asking if there's some kind of competition aspect available to people participating in these.
Yes, I answered him in a private chat to message me. He asked about international competitions that UBTECH offers, and we have traditionally run some international competitions. Maybe John could comment on that.
We do actually host our own robotic competition. We hosted our first competition late last year, and we were able to invite one team from about 20 countries. It was our first kind of foray into competitions. It was a tremendously rewarding one for us to see kids, kind of the future inventors and engineers of the world, make amazing things. We do plan on expanding that. Obviously, this year is challenging for many reasons, but we do want to bring some more organization to it, and then explore building that in a larger way here in the U.S.
Perfect. I have another couple of questions from Pavi Lakshmi. Pavi, are you there with us? Oop.
Hi, Jeremy. Yes.
Hi, Pavi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. So my question is, I'm from South Jersey STEM ecosystem. I'm also an after-school provider. So we usually run camps at the ecosystem level, as well as a after-school provider at the library and everywhere. So would you be willing to partner with an after-school program providers like us, who are also part of the ecosystem, what it would take, and would like to know more details about that as well?
Absolutely, Pavi. And I think I might have met you in San Antonio. Not sure. If not, right. I did meet a number of your colleagues as well from New Jersey. Yes, that I think what you're describing is what Jamie went into a little bit of detail on regarding our toolkit option, where I believe you're asking if you could facilitate, you would be the facilitator of camps in New Jersey. Did I hear you correct?
That is correct.
Correctly? Okay. Yes, we've got that. We've got that bundle for you, and I'd be happy to work with you one-on-one to create the end package for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. There's a number of questions coming in that I just kind of want to bundle together. A lot of those questions are about specific details about costs in kind of unique situations, about more details about the scholarship and how you apply, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd like to mention that, and I've got to scroll down to find it. Next Wednesday, May 6th, there's going to be a second webinar. And that webinar is very specifically going to just be about funding. So there are a couple reasons for this. First of all, we don't have enough time to kind of go into all the details. And I think some of this is still all kind of being figured out, particularly those unique situations. So if you are interested in this program, but also you're not sure how to fund, make sure that you sign up for that next webinar. Again, that's Wednesday, May 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Man, these questions are coming in so fast that I keep losing them, which is not great. All right, so this is not the question I was going to go to next, but I'm going to use it as a stopgap until I find that one. And that's Parker McLean. Parker, if you're there with us, can you ask your question about delivery of these materials? Try that one more time. Oh, there you are, Parker.
Oh, awesome. Hi, from Vancouver, Canada. I'm just
Parker?
wondering, yeah, what considerations did you take, or what things did you do to minimize the cost of transportation while obviously trying to get the kits to the kids before their camp actually starts?
We did a couple things. One is we want the enrollment to start as early as possible to utilize the lowest costing shipping option possible. And that normally requires more time to get from our distribution center out to students in the country. The second thing is we are centralizing our shipping operation so that it's not required to go through multiple parties. Even if we work with you as a organization and you would like to facilitate the shipping a bit, we would recommend that we ship directly from our DC, so that requires only one route versus from our distribution center to your warehouse or your office or your school, and then back out to the student. So those are the two primary things that we have decided on to minimize shipping costs.
Great, thank you.
Jason or Jamie, can you speak a little bit to the specific ties to NGSS standards? A few folks have answered this, and I know some of this got answered in the chat, but for those who aren't reading the chat, what are we hitting? What are we supporting in terms of NGSS standards?
Yeah, great question. So we already have some curriculum up on our website that is available for free that aligns with our beginner and intermediate kit, as well as our more advanced kit. And those units that are available for free on our website do align to NGSS standards in grades 3 through 8. We are currently in the process of developing more curriculum. So we should have a full set of curriculum ages 3 through 8 that aligns with all of the NGSS standards by fall, which that's available on our website for free. These camps will align to certain parts of NGSS. Obviously, the camp is not going to align to all of the NGSS for a certain grade level. That's a little bit too broad. But we will list which standard it is aligning to. Basically, we are looking to align the beginning kit with grades 3 through 5-ish, and the intermediate kit grades 6 through 8-ish. So elementary, upper elementary, and middle school.
That's great. I hope, I'm sure it won't be right away, but I hope it's in your roadmap to also be thinking about how we can tie this curricula to both the Common Core math and in particular ELA standards. I know there's a lot of opportunity to think about writing and creative problem solving in terms of those standards as well. Can you, Jamie, while you're still on, talk a little bit about what the ratio, the student to teacher ratio is going to be with these camps?
Yeah, we are aiming for a teacher to student ratio of 1 to 6. We really want all of the students to be able to interact with the teacher on the video conferencing, so that if there's a need for troubleshooting, that it won't be overwhelming for the teacher or overwhelming for the students to ask a question. So we do want to keep each session small.
Perfect. Selena Toronis, your question was answered in the chat, but I think it's one that's good for everyone to hear as well. Selena, can you ask your question?
Yes, I was just wondering the type of coding that these kits used.
So the beginning and intermediate kit both use a block-based coding that is similar to Scratch or Blockly, and all kids can start there. It does also show a preview and match of that block-based coding to the text-based Python code, so the kids can see what the actual text-based coding looks like, but their coding will actually be using the blocks.
And can I just jump in here too? In the chat, when I answered around the coding system, we also have a proprietary coding system that we call Pose Record Play, and really cool. Students literally manipulate the physical robot, record the motion, and it allows them to see kind of a backwards way of learning coding, and it's something very unique from UBTECH to help kids who are not ready for the block-based.
I think that would help kids a lot.
Perfect. Got another question that's somewhat similar, but I think a little bit different to an earlier question. Caitlin Hunter. Caitlin, are you there about your question in the Gulf Coast?
Hey, I'm here.
Hi, Caitlin.
Hi. So I submitted 2 questions. Which question?
You know, I was looking specifically at the supporting programming in the Gulf Coast, but if you could ask them both if you want, since you're on.
Okay.
I'm
So
very flexible.
I have the privilege of working for Chevron and managing STEM grants throughout the Gulf Coast. And as we are starting to look into virtual options for a lot of our nonprofit partners, your abilities, your curriculum, and your program seem like a really good fit. So I'm really interested from the sponsor standpoint in looking into how we can maybe roll out some of your technology in the Gulf Coast this summer. We have had some impact to our charitable budget related to COVID-19, but we still want to be a strong community support, especially in the STEM space. And again, especially considering the gap in learning that has happened here in New Orleans, the greater New Orleans area.
Well, that sounds like an amazing opportunity. John and team.
Well, first, thank you very much. We know that from a corporate perspective, charitable giving is is a bucket of spending that is much more, is looked at more critically than ever before. And the fact that you guys are still funding programs is very admirable. And thank you very much, because we strongly believe that STEM is a lever that the country can pull to substantially address some of the disparity in the country. And we are terrified that because of this pandemic and with pullback in spending at the corporate level as well as at the local, state, and federal level, that the chance to address the disparity to STEM becomes weaker than pre-COVID-19. So thank you very much. We will absolutely work with you on figuring out the best way to make your funding as impactful as possible through the use of our products or any of the products that we can help you facilitate with. We just want to make sure that as many students this summer, get exposed to STEM. And quite honestly, and we had this frank conversation with us as a team, it's not that we want everybody on the UBTECH program. No, we want as many students as possible on a program. And if our camp option, a virtual camp option, is one of the options, great. If not, let's still work as a community to make sure that as many kids in your communities get this opportunity. It could be a scholarship from us. It could be a camp enrollment that's funded by a generous donor. It could be us helping you implement some kind of program in your community as safe as possible. I know we can all agree, we would love to have summer camp happen in person and send as many kids away and out of your houses as possible. But I think a majority of us agree that that's difficult and it's not very safe. But if we can help with any of those pain points in the communities where maybe our camp offering isn't any of your options, please reach out.
And Caitlin, sorry, go ahead.
I'm absolutely interested. I feel like this could be a very good fit for a lot of our nonprofit partners, and I feel like our missions are very parallel. So I'm absolutely interested.
And Caitlin, we'll make sure to reach out to you as well. If you're new to the ecosystems, there's 89 of these around the world, including one that's right in your backyard in New Orleans that's very interested in this type of work. So we'll make sure to reach out and make a connection. I think we have time just for one more question. And frankly, I'm having a hard time deciding because Jennifer Martin has asked about 45 questions and they're all really, really good. I'm exaggerating a little bit. So I'm kind of pushing a couple of those together. Can you talk a little bit, Jamie, about things like artificial intelligence and career connections and what we can get out of this program beyond just learning to code a robot?
So I'll give a shout out to Jennifer. She is awesome. We go way back. I know her from my days at First Robotics.
So you planted those questions.
No, I did not. I did not. But Jennifer is an awesome advocate for robotics and coding. And Yes, so we are working with some new AI standards that are being worked on out of Carnegie Mellon. They are standards to teach AI to K-12 students. Like, what should second graders know about AI? What should they not know? What are they prepared to learn? It's a really great project that is funded by the National Science Foundation. It has some professors from Carnegie Mellon, University of Florida, UMass Lowell, and then actually a teacher working group. There are teachers actually already teaching AI in the elementary space, which is amazing. And we actually have a series of webinars that we just finished the last one yesterday, but they are posted on our website that actually address all of the standards. There's 5 big ideas, and we have a webinar for each of those 5 big ideas. They're very short, 30 minutes, just an introduction to these standards and what elementary students should be learning, or K-12 students, not just elementary, should be learning in this space. And we also actually provide some free resources and tools that you can start teaching your kids about AI right now. So that is available on our website. Come and check that out, please. Or if you want to check out the standards that are being developed, you can go to AI4K12.org, and all of the work that's being done can be seen there. So that's all really great. And we are definitely very interested in working to create curriculum about AI for kids in K-12. That's a big, big, big project on our roadmap right now. And we will be coming out with a full curriculum in the fall for K-12 students to learn all about AI.
Perfect. Thank you, Jamie. A lot of questions we didn't get to, as I mentioned before. We'll make sure to get those questions to the UBTECH team and to the STEM ecosystems team to get them answered. You'll also, don't forget, we mentioned at the top of this hour that you'll be receiving a questionnaire. That questionnaire will allow everyone to kind of self-identify and allow the folks on the UBTECH side and the ecosystem side to reach out to you to cluster people together and to figure out what those next steps are. And most importantly, perhaps, don't forget that we'll be coming together again next Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time to dig a little bit deeper into the costs associated with this and how those might be reached. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us. John, Jamie, Jason, all the J's. Everyone at UBTECH's name starts with J, and we really appreciate you being here with us and thinking about the ecosystems and ways that you can reach all of us. So thank you all, and we will be talking to you soon.